Eli's house sat at the edge of the settlement, far from the bright lights of the main streets. Most of his neighbors kept their distance, either curious or wary of the quiet engineer who preferred machines to people. Eli liked it that way. Life was simple. He woke up early, checked his equipment, fixed what needed fixing, and enjoyed the calm evenings watching the stars from his small porch. That night, the sky was unusually clear. The twin moons of his colony planet glimmered silver and pale blue, casting soft shadows over the sand and scattered rocks. Eli had just returned from the workshop after repairing a solar generator for a neighbor. The night was still, almost too still, when a faint, irregular sound reached his ears. At first he thought it was the wind or some desert creature, but then he heard it again. A soft, almost human-like cry, filled with pain and fear. Curious and cautious, Eli grabbed his flashlight and stepped outside. The cold night air stung his lungs. His boots crunched over the rough ground as he followed the sound toward the edge of his property. That's when he saw her. A small figure, hunched over and trembling, lay half buried in the sand. Her skin glowed faintly under the light, a pale shade that seemed almost liquid in its shimmer. Strange markings ran across her arms and face, luminous patterns that pulsed softly like tiny stars. Her hair was fine and silver, drifting slightly with the wind. She was tiny, no older than 10, though it was impossible to tell with alien physiology. Eli's heart thumped. He had seen travelers from nearby settlements, and even exotic explorers passing through, but never anything like this. The girl's chest rose and fell weakly. Her eyes opened, wide and bright, reflecting his flashlight like twin moons. "Hey, are you okay?" Eli asked gently, though he doubted she could understand him. The girl shivered and made a strange sound, almost a whisper. Eli knelt down carefully, keeping his movements slow and non-threatening. He could see the signs of starvation, sunken cheeks, frail limbs, and a faint sheen of sweat despite the cool air. Without thinking too much, Eli lifted her gently into his arms. She was lighter than expected, almost weightless. But her grip on nothingness was instinctive, like she was holding on to life itself. Back inside, Eli set her down on a blanket in front of a small heater. He went to the kitchen and returned with water and some nutrient gel he kept for emergencies. The girl's eyes followed him, filled with curiosity and fear. "Drink," he said softly, handing her the water. She sniffed it and then took a tiny sip, wincing as if the water burned her throat. Eli watched her carefully. She was fragile, but alive, and that mattered. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the sound of her weak breathing and the hum of the heater. Finally, she looked up at him and whispered a single word haltingly in broken human language. "Family?" Eli froze. Family? She wasn't human, and yet she looked at him with such hope, such trust. He didn't know what to say. I'm not really," Eli stammered. He wasn't used to people depending on him, let alone a creature from another world. But he could not ignore her. She needed him. He offered her some food. The nutrient gel was thick and sweet. She sniffed it cautiously, then, after a long pause, tasted it. Her eyes widened, and she ate more quickly than her tiny body should have allowed. Eli watched, amazed and worried. The more she ate, the more energy seemed to return to her. By the time she finished, she was breathing more steadily, and a faint glow returned to her skin. She tried to speak again, repeating the word, "family," her voice small and hopeful. Eli finally smiled, awkwardly but warmly. "Okay," he said, kneeling beside her. "Family, for now." That night, Eli lay awake on his couch, glancing toward the small figure curled up on the blanket. He couldn't stop thinking about her. Who was she? Where did she come from? And why had she come to him? The next morning, Eli began trying to communicate with her more systematically. He drew simple pictures on scraps of paper, houses, trees, food, and pointed to them. She responded slowly at first, drawing her own shapes and symbols. Her hands were delicate but precise, showing a surprising intelligence. As the hours passed, Eli noticed something strange. She could sense things before they happened. When a gust of wind rattled the window, she flinched even before it reached her. When he turned on a small lamp, her eyes seemed to follow not just the light, but the energy in the room. Eli didn't understand it yet, but he felt it. She was extraordinary. By the second day, he learned her name, Lyra. She said it repeatedly, smiling faintly whenever Eli pronounced it correctly. He noticed her fear when he mentioned leaving the house. She didn't want to go anywhere, and whenever he left her side, her small hands trembled slightly. One afternoon, while fixing a minor leak in his water filtration system, Eli heard a distant humming sound outside. He paused. It was mechanical, rhythmic, and getting closer. He froze, listening. Then he saw it. A patrol drone scanning the outskirts of the settlement. Panic surged through him. The settlement authorities didn't usually patrol this far, and certainly not at night. Eli's mind raced. If they found her, she would be taken. Or worse. Lyra seemed to sense the danger before he could react. Her small body stiffened, and her eyes widened with alarm. She whispered something Eli didn't understand, but her tone was urgent. He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the hidden storage room beneath his workshop. They stayed there until the drone passed. The room was dark and cramped, filled with old tools and spare parts, but it was safe. Lyra's tiny body shook and she pressed herself against him, whispering again, "Family?" Eli's heart ached. She trusted him completely, yet he knew he might not be able to protect her. The reality of their situation was heavy. He didn't know who was after her or why, but it was clear she had fled something dangerous. He sat there with her for hours trying to plan. He could not send her away. He couldn't just leave her to whatever fate awaited outside. Yet he was not a soldier, not a hero. He was just a simple engineer. How could he keep her safe? As night fell again, he decided on one thing. He would not let her face danger alone. They would figure this out together. Lyra's small hand held his tightly, and for the first time in years, Eli felt a warmth he had forgotten, the feeling of being responsible for someone, of being needed. For now, their small home was a sanctuary. Eli had no answers, no plan, only the promise he made silently to himself. "Your family. I won't let anything happen to you." Outside, the stars shone cold and distant, but inside, a fragile light of hope glimmered. Two beings from different worlds, brought together by fate, were beginning a journey neither could have imagined. And though danger waited beyond the door, for the first time, Eli felt a connection deeper than any he had ever known. By the end of the first week, Eli had learned a few more things. Lyra ate steadily now, slept safely, and began to mimic some human sounds more clearly. She could say simple words: food, home, Eli. And every time she said his name, a small smile lit her face, as if simply knowing him was enough. Eli watched her, a mixture of awe and worry in his chest. There was more to her story he knew, something important, something dangerous, but he could wait. For now, she was here, she was alive, and she was family. Days passed, and Eli settled into a careful routine with Lyra. The small house at the edge of the settlement had never felt so alive. Her soft footsteps on the wooden floor, her curious eyes exploring every corner, and the gentle way she repeated his name. It all filled a quiet emptiness Eli hadn't realized he carried. Yet beneath the calm, a quiet tension lingered. Eli knew they could not stay hidden forever. Lyra had come from somewhere dangerous, and now he was sharing in that danger. One morning, Eli noticed something unusual. While repairing the solar panels on the roof, he spotted tracks in the dust beyond the fence. They were too precise to be natural, like tire marks, but smaller and uniform, as if from some mechanical scout. He frowned, heart tightening. "Lyra!" he called when she wandered into the yard, chasing a small desert bird. Her silver hair glimmered in the sun as she turned to him, blinking. "Come inside, quickly." Her brow furrowed in confusion, but she obeyed, her small steps quickening. Eli locked the door behind them and peered out the window. From a distance, he saw a sleek drone moving silently, scanning the ground. Its lights pulsed red in the sun, sweeping slowly across the sand. Eli felt a surge of protectiveness he hadn't known he possessed. Lyra's small, trusting face looked up at him, and his decision was immediate. They had to leave, at least temporarily, until he understood what they were up against. He opened his storage room beneath the workshop, revealing the small spacecraft he had been working on for months. It was not fast or armed like official patrol ships, but it was sturdy, reliable, and, more importantly, capable of leaving the planet. Lyra's eyes widened the moment she saw it. "You fly?" she asked, her words hesitant but full of awe. Eli smiled gently. "Yes, but it's small, not much room, but it will keep us safe for now." Lyra's small hand brushed his. "Safe?" she whispered, almost pleading. "Yes," Eli promised. "I won't let anyone hurt you. Your family, remember?" Her lips curved into a faint smile. For a brief moment, the weight of danger seemed to lift, replaced by trust. They prepared the ship carefully, packing only essentials: food, water, repair tools, and a few personal items Eli thought might comfort her. Lyra watched, fascinated by the small metal box containing their supplies, her tiny fingers tracing the edges. Once they were ready, Eli guided the ship out of the garage and into the open field. The engines hummed softly, vibrating through the floor, and Lyra clutched his arm, wide-eyed. The small ship lifted off the ground, the settlement shrinking below them as they rose. As they left the planet's atmosphere, Eli pointed out the stars. "That's Deneb," he said, "and over there, Vega." Lyra's luminous eyes followed, absorbing every detail. Beautiful," she whispered. "Home. Far." Eli's chest tightened. He didn't know her home, didn't know her people, but he understood loss. "We'll find your family," he said quietly. "I promise we'll try." The first leg of their journey was quiet, each lost in thought. Eli monitored the ship's systems, while Lyra peered out the small windows, watching the dark space stretch endlessly before them. After a while, she began to speak, her voice halting as she described flashes of memory. Her planet's fields of glowing flora, cities that floated above the ground, and her people, small and radiant, who could manipulate light and energy in ways Eli could only imagine. "They want to take us," she said softly, her words trembling. "Hurt everyone." Eli frowned. "Who wants to hurt you? Why?" She shook her head, hiding her face in her hands. No, bad, human, machines. Experiments, family." Her small voice cracked, and Eli felt a pang in his heart. He gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's okay. You're safe now. I'll protect you." Her eyes met his, shimmering with gratitude. "Family," she whispered again, holding his hand tightly. Their peace was short-lived. While scanning a nearby asteroid belt for a safe route, Eli noticed multiple contacts on the ship's sensors, drones, small and fast, closing in from multiple directions. They were no ordinary patrols. These drones were programmed to capture, to hunt. Eli's mind raced. "Lyra, stay down!" he shouted as the first drone zipped past the window, scanning for heat signatures. Lyra ducked instinctively, her small body pressing against the floor. Eli activated the ship's stealth mode, a system he had installed for emergency situations. The ship's exterior shimmered, blending with the dark void of space. The drones slowed, confused by the sudden disappearance of their target. Eli breathed a sigh of relief, but knew this was only temporary. "We need a plan," he muttered. "We can't keep running forever." Lyra looked up at him, eyes wide. "Plan? Yes. We need to find out where your people are and how to keep them safe. Then, maybe we can stop the bad ones." Her small hand touched his arm again. "You help family?" "Always," he said firmly. The next day, they found a derelict space station orbiting a small, barren planet. Eli decided to dock briefly, hoping to scan for clues about the drones and who might be after Lyra. Inside, the station was dark, long abandoned, with broken consoles and flickering lights. Lyra wandered cautiously, her senses alert. She whispered to herself in her language, and Eli realized she was trying to communicate with the station's energy systems. To his amazement, parts of the station responded. Lights flickered to life, doors unlocked, and small drones within the station activated, seemingly recognizing Lyra. She smiled faintly, almost shyly, then whispered, "Friends." Eli was stunned. "Friends? You mean from your planet?" Lyra nodded. "Yes. Help. Hide. Safe." Eli realized the truth. Lyra's people had allies scattered across space, hidden and cautious, waiting for her return. And if he could help her reach them, she, and perhaps her entire species, might survive. Their brief stop was interrupted by the sound of external sensors. More drones were approaching. Eli worked quickly to repair the station's defense systems. Lyra assisted, her small hands emitting a faint glow that powered the ancient machinery. Together, they managed to send a temporary signal to warn Lyra's allies of the approaching threat. When the last drone was repelled, Eli looked at her with admiration. "You're amazing," he said. "But we still have to be careful." She looked up at him, her eyes reflecting both fear and hope. "Family? Safe?" "Yes," he replied. "We'll keep going, together." As they prepared to leave the station, Eli felt a growing sense of responsibility. This was no longer just about protecting Lyra. It was about protecting her people, about standing against forces that sought to harm those who could not defend themselves. He had never imagined himself a hero, but here he was, ready to face danger for the sake of a small alien girl who had chosen to call him family. Lyra watched him, her small hand brushing his arm. "Family? Always?" Eli nodded, firm and certain. "Always." And with that, they set their course deeper into space, leaving the barren planet and its silent dangers behind. The journey ahead was uncertain, full of unknown threats, but for the first time in both Thiele's small spacecraft drifted through the endless black of space, stars glittering like diamonds around them. The hum of the engines was a constant companion, a steady reminder that they were alive, moving, and together. Lyra sat by the window, her luminous eyes reflecting the galaxies beyond, her small hands pressed against the glass. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "Far home." Eli glanced at her, a mixture of awe and determination in his eyes. "Yes, but we can't stop here, not yet. We need to find your people." Lyra nodded, her small face set with determination. She had grown stronger since arriving at Eli's home, her body no longer fragile, her mind sharp and alert. And yet, her vulnerability remained, reminding Eli how much he owed her his protection. For days, they navigated asteroid belts, dodged space debris, and followed hidden star maps Eli had kept from his exploratory days. The galaxy was vast, and finding her people seemed impossible, yet Eli refused to give up. He refused to let her down. One quiet evening, Lyra spoke softly, almost to herself. Miss Family? Friends? Lost? Eli looked at her, sadness flickering across his face. Sometimes we lose people, but we also find new ones, and right now we have each other. Her eyes glistened with tears she didn't shed, and she whispered a word Eli didn't understand. It was a name, a memory of something dear. He didn't need to know the meaning to understand her pain. Their peace shattered abruptly when the ship's sensors beeped frantically. Multiple fast-moving contacts were approaching, a squadron of drones, sleek and aggressive, closing in from several directions. "Lyra, duck down!" Eli shouted, grabbing her small frame and holding her low to the floor. The first drone zipped past, scanning with red pulses, seeking life signs. Eli pushed the ship's controls with practiced hands. He had installed emergency stealth systems, but they could only hold for a short while. He needed a plan, and quickly. "Lyra," he said, his voice firm yet calm, "I need you to help me." Her eyes widened. "Help? How?" "Use your energy, like last time. Can you?" Lyra hesitated, then nodded. A faint glow emerged from her hands, small and unsteady at first. Eli guided her, instructing her to focus on the ship's external energy field. Slowly, the glow grew, pulsing and intertwining with the ship's systems. The sensors of the drones went haywire, blinking and turning as if confused. Eli let out a relieved breath. "Good job, Lyra! That's it!" The drones retreated, but Eli knew this was only temporary. Whoever was after her had more resources, more determination. They couldn't stay on the same course for long. As they flew deeper into uncharted space, Lyra began sharing memories of her home planet. Her people lived in floating cities, suspended above forests of bioluminescent trees. Their homes glimmered with energy, powered by light that flowed through their veins. She spoke of laughter, games, and lessons under glowing skies. Eli listened, captivated by her words and saddened by the knowledge that these people were now in danger. "I will find them," Eli promised quietly. "All of them, I swear." She reached for his hand, her small fingers wrapping around his. "Family, help, safe?" "Always," he replied firmly. Days passed. Supplies dwindled, and the ship's systems began to show wear. The asteroid belts had left scratches and dents, and Eli's small repairs could only hold for so long. They needed allies. One day, a faint signal appeared on the sensors, a transmission in a code Eli did not recognize. Lyra's eyes lit up. "Friend?" "I think so," Eli said cautiously. "Let's check it out." Following the signal, they discovered a small, hidden ship camouflaged against the dark of space. Its design was unlike anything Eli had seen: sleek curves, soft, glowing panels, and an aura that hinted at alien technology. Lyra gasped. "Home, maybe?" Eli guided their ship alongside the alien vessel. He tapped into the communication system, attempting to send a basic greeting. Moments later, a figure appeared on the screen, a tall, elegant being, eyes glowing faintly, similar to Lyra's. "Lyra," the being said, voice melodic and calm. "You have come. And who is this?" Eli introduced himself. "I'm Eli. I'm helping her." The alien studied him for a moment, then nodded. "If you protect her, you protect us. Welcome, friend." Lyra's small hands trembled with joy. "Friends, safe." The aliens offered guidance, maps of nearby safe zones, and knowledge of patrol routes. They warned Eli that Lyra's pursuers were part of a larger operation, an organization harvesting her people for experiments. The thought made Eli's blood boil, but he pushed it down. He needed a plan, not anger. The alliance proved valuable. Eli and Lyra learned new techniques to evade detection, using energy fields, hidden routes, and clever maneuvers to stay ahead of the drones. Lyra's abilities grew stronger with each day. She could sense approaching threats, manipulate energy with precision, and even heal minor injuries. Their bond deepened further. During quiet moments, Eli taught her small tricks with human tools, and she taught him subtle ways to use energy, almost like magic. They laughed together, sharing stories and memories. The small ship became a home in the vast emptiness of space. But danger was never far away. One morning, sensors detected a massive fleet approaching, a fleet unlike any patrol they had seen. Eli's heart sank. The fleet was organized, armed, and relentless. The drones had led them straight into a trap. "Lyra," he said, keeping his voice calm though fear churned inside him. "We may have to fight, or at least escape. Can you help me?" She nodded, determination blazing in her eyes. Family. Fight. Together. The next hours were a blur of maneuvers, energy shields, and clever tricks. Eli piloted the ship with all his skill, weaving through asteroid fields, dodging laser blasts, and using the environment to their advantage. Lyra focused, sending pulses of energy that disrupted the fleet's targeting systems. The combination was precarious, but effective. At one point, they flew into a narrow canyon on a small planet, the fleet unable to follow without risking collision. Eli guided the ship through twisting rock formations, while Lyra amplified the energy field around them, hiding the ship's signature. By the time they emerged, the fleet was gone, forced to retreat. They landed on the planet's surface to rest. Lyra collapsed in exhaustion, small hands covering her glowing eyes. Eli held her gently. "It's okay. You're safe now," she whispered, barely audible. "Family? Always?" "Always," he said, holding her close. That night, under the alien stars, Eli thought about the journey ahead. They had survived danger, found allies, and strengthened their bond. But the fleet would return, stronger and more determined. They needed a plan to rescue Lyra's people, to stop the organization hunting them, and to secure a future where Lyra could live freely. Eli realized that their journey was no longer just about survival. It was about hope, justice, and the unbreakable bond of chosen family. And he would not fail. Lyra slept beside him, small and glowing, a reminder of everything he was fighting for. The vast galaxy around them was filled with danger, but also possibilities. Together they were stronger than any threat. Together they were family. And so, they prepared for the next leg of their journey, hearts full of determination and trust, ready to face whatever challenges awaited across the stars. Their lives. They were not alone. They had each other, and that, Eli realized, was the greatest strength anyone could have. Eli's small ship approached the dark planet where Lyra's people were held. The surface was jagged and barren, covered in tall, black towers that gleamed like metal under the distant sun. Drones patrolled the skies, moving in perfect formation. Eli's hands tightened around the controls, his jaw set. This was it, the moment they had been preparing for. "Lyra," he said, glancing at her. Her small face was determined, glowing softly in the dim cockpit light. "Are you ready?" She nodded, her tiny hand gripping his. "Family. Ready." The ship descended carefully, slipping into a narrow canyon where the patrol's sensors could not easily detect them. Eli guided it silently, using every trick he had learned from Lyra's allies. They landed near one of the towers, the ship hidden behind jagged rocks. Lyra stepped out first, small and light on her feet. She glowed faintly, a soft shield of energy protecting her as she moved. Eli followed closely, carrying tools and supplies for the rescue. The black towers loomed over them, silent and threatening. Inside the facility, the air was cold and metallic. Strange machines hummed, and distant noises hinted at the presence of the captured aliens. Eli and Lyra moved carefully, hiding in shadows, avoiding patrol drones that hovered silently. They found the first cell. Through a transparent wall, Lyra saw one of her people, a small figure, trembling but alive, her eyes filled with tears. "Family? Safe?" she whispered. Eli knelt beside her. "We're going to get everyone out, I promise." Using a combination of human engineering and Lyra's energy abilities, they unlocked the cell doors. Lyra's people stepped out cautiously, whispering in their glowing language. They moved quietly but with purpose, following her lead. As they progressed, the facility's alarm system triggered. Red lights flashed, and an automated voice warned of intruders. Eli's heart raced. "We need to move faster," he said. Lyra's small hands glowed brighter, shielding their group from detection. The corridors were a maze, but Eli's experience with mechanical systems helped. He guided the group, disabling doors and rerouting security measures. Every step was tense. The faint hum of drones and the clanking of machinery kept them alert. At the central chamber, they found more of Lyra's people, trapped in energy cages. Some looked weak from hunger, others from fear. Lyra's eyes widened in sorrow. "Family, all here," she whispered. She moved forward, touching the cages. Her energy flowed through the machines, slowly unlocking them. The aliens stepped free, their faint glow returning as hope filled their hearts. Eli watched, amazed by her strength and determination. But just as they began to escape, the facility's main doors burst open. Armed guards and drones filled the corridor. Eli and Lyra's group were surrounded. Eli's mind raced. There was no way to fight them all directly. "Lyra," he whispered, "we need a plan. Can you—" She nodded, understanding immediately. Her small body radiated energy, forming a protective field around the group. Eli grabbed a nearby control panel and began overloading the facility's power system. Sparks flew, and lights flickered as alarms blared. The guards hesitated, unsure how to react to the sudden surge of energy. Lyra's shield pulsed, pushing the drones back and confusing their targeting systems. Eli guided the freed aliens toward a maintenance exit. Moving swiftly, but carefully, the group reached the surface just as the facility began to collapse, overloaded by Eli's sabotage and Lyra's energy bursts. They sprinted to the waiting ship, hearts pounding. Eli and Lyra helped everyone aboard, securing them as quickly as possible. As the ship lifted off, Lyra looked back at the crumbling towers. Her people were safe, free from the threat that had haunted them for so long. Tears filled her eyes, but this time they were tears of joy. "Family. Safe," she whispered, her voice filled with relief. Eli smiled, his heart swelling. "We did it. All of you are safe now." The journey back to a safe haven was filled with quiet celebration. Lyra's people spoke softly among themselves, sharing stories of their capture and escape. Eli listened, fascinated by their resilience and courage. Despite their ordeal, they carried hope, a hope that had been rekindled by Lyra and him. Once they reached the hidden sanctuary provided by Lyra's allies, the aliens were welcomed warmly. Families reunited, laughter filled the air, and the once frightened faces glowed with relief and happiness. Lyra stayed close to Eli, her small hand in his, her eyes shining with trust. One evening, after the chaos had settled, Lyra sat beside Eli, looking up at the stars from the sanctuary's observation deck. "Eli," she whispered, "family here?" He nodded, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Yes, you and your people are safe, and you are part of my family, too." She smiled, a small, radiant smile that seemed to light up the night. "Always, family?" "Always," Eli replied, his voice calm and certain. The days that followed were filled with rebuilding and care. Eli helped repair the sanctuary, improving its energy systems with the knowledge he had gained from Lyra and her people. Lyra taught him new ways to harness energy, ways that made the systems more efficient and safe. They laughed, learned, and shared stories, their bond growing stronger with every passing day. Lyra's people began to thrive again, their glow brighter than ever. They played together, shared meals, and spoke of a future filled with freedom. And Eli, once a solitary engineer, found himself surrounded by a family he had never expected, both human and alien. But the adventure had changed him. He was no longer just a man living quietly at the edge of a settlement. He was a protector, a friend, a father figure to Lyra, and a hero in the eyes of those he had saved. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the sanctuary, Lyra climbed onto Eli's lap, resting her small head against his chest. "Home, family," she whispered softly. Eli hugged her gently. "Yes, Lyra. Home, family, always." Outside, the stars stretched endlessly, but inside the sanctuary, there was warmth, laughter, and love. The galaxy could be dangerous, full of threats and uncertainty. But for Eli and Lyra, that did not matter. They had each other, and that bond was stronger than any challenge they could face. The journey had begun with a fragile, starving girl collapsing at his door. It had led to adventure, danger, and the discovery of extraordinary powers. But most importantly, it had led to family. And as Eli looked at Lyra and her people, all glowing softly in the night, he knew one truth above all. Family was not just those you were born with. Family was those you chose, those you protected, and those you loved. Lyra curled against him, her small hand holding his firmly, and whispered once more, "Always, family." Eli smiled, gazing out at the stars, feeling a peace he had never known. "Always," he echoed, and in that moment, amid the glow of the sanctuary and the warmth of trust and love, two worlds, human and alien, had found unity, hope, and a forever home. The galaxy was vast, uncertain, and sometimes dangerous. But with Lyra at his side, and with the family they had built together, Eli felt ready to face anything the stars might bring. Together they were stronger, braver, and forever united. And so their story, of courage, trust, and chosen family, continued under the endless sky, with the promise of hope and freedom shining brighter than any star.